Senator Van.
Thank you, Acting Deputy Chair. I rise to take note of the report from the Senate Select Committee into Energy Planning and Regulation in Australia, otherwise referred to as the Energy Committee. And I'm pleased to share the findings of the Energy Committee, established on 16 September last year, to examine the governance, planning and regulation of Australia's energy system. The final report was tabled immediately prior to Christmas on 20 December. The committee's objective was straightforward. That is, to inquire whether our energy frameworks are genuinely fit for purpose, capable of hitting decarbonisation targets, while continuing to deliver reliable and affordable electricity. Despite the very tight time limit it was given, just 3 short months, the committee managed to examine one of the most technical and complex parts of our economy, and certainly one of the most important. This was possible because the committee enjoyed intense expert interest and participation, and I thank everyone for their time. The inquiry received more than 80 submissions and heard testimony from over 35 expert witnesses drawn from academia, industry bodies, the market bodies, government, energy and environmental think tanks. I thank all the participants, the Secretariat and my fellow committee members for their support. Our energy system, the national electricity market, is an engine that is simultaneously the largest contributor to our nation's productivity and to our carbon emissions. Through the inquiry, it became evident that the governance and planning of our system is not keeping pace with that system, and particularly the rapid technological shifts undergoing, industry energy needs, consumer cost of living pressures and our urgent decarbonisation goals. The inquiry revealed that Australia's energy market has critical weaknesses in governance, which have allowed planning ineffectiveness and economic inefficiency to not keep pace with our needs. Those weaknesses are historic in origin. That is, what may have been sufficient in a largely coal-fuelled system are completely inadequate for the revolutionary transition we need to achieve to power our economy and honour our international agreements. The Energy Committee report highlights the disconnect between what is needed to decarbonise swiftly and cost-effectively and what is actually happening in practice. It underscores how our historic frameworks cannot adequately deliver a modern, clean energy system. It has been broadly acknowledged the inquiry was neither created nor conducted in order to seek or to find fault or to score political points. Instead, it provided an opportunity to kickstart genuine reform. Unless it is ignored for paltry political reasons, it should serve as a catalyst to drive important governance and planning change that will set up our economy to be strong, clean and efficient for decades. The report lays out 22 practical recommendations for reform that address the gulf between what is needed for a swift economic transition and what is actually happening. It underscores how our historic coal-focused frameworks cannot adequately deliver a modern, clean energy system. The inquiry found that the development of that energy system has only a gossamer-thin cloak of governance, with only an appearance of oversight and little genuine accountability. This is particularly true of the Australian Energy Market Operator, AEMO, the organisation that has been given enormous powers for the energy transition via its biannual Integrated System Plan, the ISP. That thin veneer of governance gives those charged with the transition just enough cover to maintain the status quo, leading to change at a glacial pace, but with accompanying galloping costs. Costs that are not borne by governments, but are passed straight through to energy consumers. By echoing the myth that true governance exists, Australians are being asked to keep believing that we are rapidly transitioning to green electricity generation, which, if true, is, I believe, due to households democratising energy separate from what's happening in the NEM. That is, by making their own choices in installing rooftop solar at world-beating rates. Mr Deputy President, governance is not just a word. It is a recognised system of checks and balances to identify, manage and mitigate risks. Why? Simple. To ensure that what should occur is actually what is being done. The argument that governance of our energy system is adequate simply because AEMO says so is a nonsense. The private sector has learnt this the hard way through many failures, numerous royal commissions and government policy eventually catching up. The planning failures that we see persist because there is no effective oversight, leaving AEMO effectively unaccountable and given a kind of papal infallibility in what they put in the ISP. AEMO wields considerable authority to plan the enormous amount of capital needed to transition our system, and surely they should be subjected to far more rigorous scrutiny, not less. It is noteworthy that after 4 ISPs since 2018, there is little to show for it. Instead, the ISP has, in effect, delivered very little of what AEMO has said was required. While they may have started out under different names, mega projects such as VNI West, HumeLink and Marinus Link have not even started. Even Project Energy Connect has only been built to the South Australian border, leaving most of the line yet to be built through New South Wales. Questioning of these projects has got louder and louder as the capital costs and timelines continue to grow exponentially. We all know that mega projects of all types have a poor track record on both timeline and budget. Current ISP project cost forecasts have blown out to an extent that surely, at some point, they should be withdrawn or alternatives sought. Instead, each ISP argues the case for them to proceed regardless of whether they still make economic sense. At some point, sense should prevail and alternatives developed. That point may have already passed, but without appropriate oversight and accountability, it is not possible to know. If the increased costs are deemed acceptable by those guiding the NEM, perhaps they should be transferred to government's balance sheets and be subject to the scrutiny and oversight the budgetary processes in Parliament require. Greater oversight would mean transmission and other decarbonisation projects undergo transparent evaluation using consistent and reliable economic methodologies. I want to be very clear. I'm not against building transmission. We will need a great deal of it. However, the current focus on interregional interconnectors brings a significant opportunity cost. It incorrectly frames the problem as geographic, that is, moving power from one state to another, when the real challenge is a temporal mismatch, that is, the mismatch between midday supply peaks and late-day demand surges. Expensive interconnectors do not solve that timing mismatch. For example, one of the simplest ways to make better use of our existing energy generation is by shifting electric hot water heating to the middle of the day, where we've got a surplus of solar power. But only 1 or 2 states have even sought to address that. The first recommendation of the committee was for a comprehensive review by the Productivity Commission. The Productivity Commission did a review last in 2013, so it's very much time that it did it again. It could rectify misplaced priorities and re-energise investment signals in areas such as storage and demand management. A more equitable model would drive innovation in storage and demand-side management, spurring faster decarbonisation while controlling costs. In conclusion, I look forward to the government's response, where we see a genuine acknowledgement of the problem, a genuine desire to resolve Australia's energy market challenges, and real action to develop a relevant and future-proof energy system. And I seek leave to continue my remarks.
Leave granted.